Imagine a man who wakes up every single morning at 5:30 a.m., alone. No one beside him. No "good morning." No one to share the weight. Just silence, a leaking faucet, and a little girl in the next room hugging a stuffed elephant like it's the only thing keeping her grounded. His wife didn't die. She just left. Packed her bags, walked out, and moved across the country, leaving behind a 3-year-old who still asks why mommy never visits. And this man, this ordinary, exhausted, quietly broken man, never said a single bad word about her. Not once. He didn't collapse. He didn't give up. He got up. Every single day. He cooked. He cleaned. He graded papers at midnight. He cried on kitchen floors so his daughter wouldn't hear him. He showed up to every school event alone while every other kid had 2 parents. And then one purple volcano changed everything. This is the story of Marcus, a single dad who lost everything and somehow built a life more beautiful than most people who have it all. Stay until the end. I promise, this one will hit your soul. If this already gave you chills, smash that like button, subscribe to Tales by David, and drop a comment below. Where in the world are you watching this from? I read every single one. Hey, what's up, everyone? Welcome back to Tales by David. If you're new here, I'm David, and this channel is where I share real stories, the kind that hit different, the kind that make you laugh, cry, and maybe see your own life in a whole new way. Today's story is about a single dad. And I want you to stay with me until the end, because this one's going to stay with you. His name was Marcus. 41 years old, lived in a small house on Clover Street with a leaky kitchen faucet he never got around to fixing and a 7-year-old daughter named Lily who was, without question, the best thing that had ever happened to him. Marcus hadn't planned on doing this alone. Nobody plans for that. But life doesn't send you a memo before it flips everything upside down. His wife, Renee, left when Lily was 3. There were no dramatic scenes, no screaming matches. Just a quiet conversation at the kitchen table one Tuesday morning where Renee said she wasn't happy and she hadn't been for a long time. Marcus sat there, hands around his coffee mug, and just listened. He didn't argue. He didn't beg. He nodded, and 2 weeks later, he was signing papers. Renee moved across the country. She called Lily on birthdays. Sometimes holidays. Marcus never said a bad word about her to their daughter, not once, even on the nights when Lily cried herself to sleep asking why mommy didn't come visit. Those were the hardest nights. The kind where Marcus would close Lily's bedroom door quietly, walk to the kitchen, sit down on the floor with his back against the cabinet, and just breathe. Just exist in the silence for a few minutes before he got back up and got on with it. Because that's what single parents do. They get back up. Marcus worked as a high school history teacher. He loved it, loved the kids, loved the subject, loved making the past feel alive in a room full of teenagers who thought nothing existed before TikTok. But teaching doesn't pay extravagantly, and Marcus was working with a tight budget. He meal prepped every Sunday. He coupon clipped. He bought Lily's clothes at the end of season sales and kept them in a box in the closet for when she grew into them. He was careful and deliberate and quietly exhausted in a way that only people who are doing everything alone truly understand. His mornings were a military operation. Up at 5:30. Coffee made. Lily's lunch packed. Her outfit laid out on the chair in her room. Then he'd wake her up at 6:15, and Lily, God bless her, was not a morning person. She'd come shuffling out in her pajamas, hair all over the place, dragging her stuffed elephant named Gerald by the trunk, and Marcus would scoop her up and hold her for a minute before the day officially started. That minute was sacred. He never rushed it. Drop her off at school. Get to work. Teach 4 classes. Grade papers during lunch. Pick her up at 3. Homework help. Dinner. bath, bedtime story. Then, once Lily was asleep, back to grading, lesson plans, laundry, dishes, and all the invisible labor that nobody sees. His friends, the few he still had time for, would sometimes say, "Marcus, man, you need to start dating again." And he'd laugh it off. It wasn't that he didn't want connection. He was lonely in a way that's hard to explain, not always, not every day, but in the quiet moments, in the empty side of the bed, at school events where every other kid had two parents holding signs. He felt it. But dating felt like a puzzle with a piece missing. Where did it fit? When? And how do you bring someone new into Lily's world without disrupting the only stable thing she's ever known? So he didn't. He focused on her. He focused on them. And then came the science fair. Lily's second-grade science fair was a big deal at her school. Every kid had to do a project. Lily had decided, very firmly, in the way that 7-year-olds decide things, that she wanted to build a volcano. A real one. With lava that actually came out. Marcus knew nothing about building volcanoes. He was a history teacher. He knew about the eruption of Vesuvius, not the baking soda kind. But he sat down with Lily on a Saturday morning with YouTube tutorials and craft supplies spread across the kitchen table, and they figured it out together. It took 3 weekends. There were failed attempts. There was a moment where the papier-mâché collapsed entirely and Lily burst into tears and Marcus almost did too. But they rebuilt it. They painted it together. Lily chose purple for the mountain because she said volcanoes should be more colorful, and by the time the fair came around, they had the most gloriously ridiculous purple volcano Marcus had ever seen, and he was so proud he could barely stand it. The night before the science fair, Lily was lying in bed and she looked up at him and said, "Daddy, do you think we'll win?" And Marcus looked at her, this little girl with her wild hair and her stuffed elephant and her purple volcano, and he said, "I think we already did, bug." She didn't entirely understand what he meant. But she smiled and closed her eyes. The next morning, they walked into that school gym with that volcano between them, and Marcus helped her set it up at her table. He watched her explain the project to the judges with complete confidence, using words like chemical reaction and volcanic eruption that she'd practiced approximately 40 times in the bathroom mirror. She didn't win first place. She got third. But she beamed like she'd won the whole world, and Marcus photographed her with her ribbon and texted the picture to nobody in particular because there wasn't really anyone to send it to. He saved it as his phone wallpaper. There was a woman at the science fair, another parent, her name was Claire. Her son was in Lily's class. Claire was a librarian, soft-spoken, with kind eyes and the sort of calm presence that makes you feel immediately at ease. She'd watched Lily's presentation from a few feet away and afterward caught Marcus's eye and said, "Your daughter is incredible." And Marcus had laughed and said, "She really is." They talked for maybe 10 minutes before the kids dragged them off in opposite directions. But Marcus thought about that conversation on the drive home. He thought about how easy it felt. How natural. He didn't do anything with that thought for a long time. He just carried it around quietly, the way he carried a lot of things. A few months later, at a school pickup, Claire was there again. Lily ran off with her son to the swings, and Marcus and Claire fell into another easy conversation. And before they parted ways, she said, "If you ever want to grab coffee sometime, that would be nice." Straightforward. No pressure. Just honest. Marcus stood there for a second. And then he said yes. They had coffee. Then dinner. Then a few more dinners. It was slow and careful and real, the way things are when you're building something that actually matters. Claire wasn't looking to rush anything, and neither was Marcus. They were two people who had both learned, in different ways, that the things worth having are the things worth waiting for. 6 months in, Marcus told Lily that there was someone he'd been spending time with. Lily considered this information very seriously, the way she considered all important things, and then asked if Claire liked elephants. Marcus said he'd find out. He asked Claire. Claire said she loved elephants. Marcus reported this back. Lily said, okay, she can come to dinner. That first dinner was spaghetti. Lily insisted on making the garlic bread herself, which meant it was slightly burnt on one side. Claire ate 2 pieces and said it was the best garlic bread she'd ever had. Lily beamed. Marcus watched from across the table, and something in his chest loosened. Something he'd been holding tight for years. He still got up at 5:30 every morning. He still packed Lily's lunch and laid out her clothes and did the laundry and the dishes and all the invisible work. He still had nights where the exhaustion sat heavy on his shoulders. But he'd stopped carrying it like it was a sentence. Like it was something to survive. Because somewhere along the way, without even fully noticing it, he'd built something remarkable. He'd built a life. A real, full, imperfect, beautiful life in a small house on Clover Street with a leaky faucet and a purple volcano on the bookshelf and a little girl who dragged a stuffed elephant named Gerald everywhere she went. And some mornings, when he'd pick Lily up in that quiet minute before the day started, her head on his shoulder, still half asleep, he'd close his eyes and just feel it. The weight of her. The warmth of her. The simple, staggering fact of her. He'd done this. Through all of it, he'd done this. And she was everything. That was Marcus's story. And if you know a single parent, a dad, a mom, anyone doing this alone, share this with them today. Let them know they're seen. Because the work they do every day, the quiet, unglamorous, relentless love they pour into their kids, that's the stuff that actually shapes the world. If this story moved you, hit that like button and subscribe to Tales by David, because I've got so many more stories coming your way. Drop a comment below, tell me about someone you know who reminds you of Marcus. I read every single one. Until next time, take care of each other out there. I'll see you in the next one.